Welcome back to the best of the good life. Today we decided to sit with a young CEO called Jonan Kandwanaho. Man, I should get a trophy. Right. I should get a trophy for pronouncing your name. I don't know what Western names. I struggle with Western names. Yeah.
Probably you should marry Western.
Oh, that's a hint. That's a hint. I'm going to do that. I'm going to probably do that. But before I do that, I'll first come for a loan. How about that? I have so much collateral. I have so many cars. I have houses, buildings, and all that. You can't even fund
your wedding when you marry Western now. You know, the cash flows and the collateral.
Will you give me some cows? Ladies and gentlemen, it's quite charming and very funny, but this man is loaded with so much information when it comes to the money lending business, and I like him so much. This is the second time he's featured on the show because, man, he's always teaching you a thing or two. So, Jonan, before we went into that short commercial break, I promised people that we would still push that envelope of reminding people, is really money lending regulated? And who is regulating them? Who are monitoring them? Stuff like the Disappearance Act, which you are not familiar with.
I got it from you.
If it happens, who am I supposed to report to? So let's do that. Who regulates you?
Thank you so much, Drago. First of all is to highlight that indeed money lending industry is regulated.
Okay.
Yeah, we are regulated by the
the same time with fintech?
Yeah, fintech as well. Fintech as well.
Okay.
Yeah, they fall in there. So we are regulated, and we are regulated by the Tier 4 Microfinance Institution and Money Lenders Act of 2016. And in it, there are regulations that operationalize the act, and they were enacted in 2018. So we are indeed regulated. So behind that is that we have a framework in which we operate. First of all is that if you want to operate as a money lender, you ought to be licensed. So if you're licensed, that means there are quite a number of conditions that you actually have to meet to be licensed. Just like a trader gets a KCCA license, just like banks get license from the Bank of Uganda, we also get a license. And to get a license, you have to meet particular conditions. And you get those conditions to also be able to serve the client very well. So it's beneficial on both sides of the client as well as you as a lender, because then you get to grow because it's a framework. For any industry that does not have a framework, cannot grow.
Okay.
For any industry that does not have a framework, cannot enable the attendant stakeholders grow. So we are regulated, and we are pro-regulation. We like it because it helps us grow. But key attendant to that as well is that amidst those regulations, there are key things that the regulator, who is the Uganda Microfinance Regulatory Authority, does. And one of the things that they do, apart from licensing, is compliance, ensuring that we comply. If you said, I'm going to meet a particular requirement when you're applying for a license, you ought to comply with that. But sometimes when you do not have someone to whip you and say, you know what, here you've gone south, you've gone divergent what you committed, you may easily derail from the real runway, which might be a fault on your end and inform your death or your collapse, but also might affect the client himself. Now, speaking of the Disappearance Act that you highlighted, did you realize that even the clients have the audacity, they have the right to actually know that in case I borrow money from a particular lender and I have the money to pay back and the lender is not around, I have the audacity to actually take this money to Umrah. There's a provision in the Act. There's a provision in the regulation that you as a borrower, you can actually pick this money, take it to Umrah, that in the event that I come after you or your collateral, you say, look, you are not around, yet I had the money to pay, so I gave the money to Umrah. So Umrah mediates and the matter is resolved there and then.
Okay.
So some people have suffered, the public has suffered sometimes because they do not have the information.
I know you've heard about that. Some of these anomalies that are happening in that industry. I know Jonaki operates differently,
absolutely
but they definitely exist. I'm going to ask my a team to have a close-up of this BNI. What is that? I've seen it so many places. What is that all about?
BNI is an association or an organization that I am proud to associate. It is Business Network International. BNI exists in over 38 countries. Among those countries is Uganda. And we have our national director, Diana Ninsima Kibuka. doing great work for business people. So it's an association for business people, for CEOs. If you want to grow your business, you get in there because we give each other business. We market for one another. So it's an association that you cannot afford to be out of if you're running any business. Any business. Now there's one unique thing that is a unique identifier and a unique benefactor for any CEO to know about, is that if I belong to a chapter, for example, I belong to Excellence chapter. If I belong to a chapter, it's only me as a lender, as Jonaki, that can actually exist in that chapter.
Okay.
So there's no competition in my chapter. It only has to be one money lender, no any other money lender. So it means that all the guys that belong to that chapter, plus their subsequent people that supply them, that benefit of their businesses, that they go out and market me as me in my chapter as the only lender. If you run a hardware, it will be only you as Drago, running that hardware in that particular chapter. So we encourage coordination and complementary efforts rather than competition.
Okay.
So we collaborate a lot rather than compete. It's a game changer. It's a very good. But the last one also that is, you cannot disregard is the giver's gain. We subscribe to a notion of giver's gain. Is that before I ask for business from Drago, I need to first see how I can support Drago to grow. I first give you priority. I first give to you. I first look for business for you. So you come to BNI not with the hunter's mentality, but rather a farmer's mentality.
Wow. So, Jonan, also the other question that is going to be so vital for the viewer, I know this for sure because you're armed with so much information. For any money lender that is having a company, maybe a company that is growing up, still on the baby stage, how do you protect yourself from your business? I know this is a very intriguing question.
Very intriguing.
Please.
You're touching you're touching a beehive.
I know what I'm doing. So dissect that for me and the person watching this. How do you really protect yourself from the business itself?
So you need to protect yourself from the business. It is key.
How?
It is good to appreciate that, you as you're different and the business is different. As a business, it's supposed to exist as an entity on its own.
Okay.
Living with blood. So you need to establish a firewall between you and your business. The first thing that you need to do is finances. Because it's one of the things that, you get to, pick money as and when. When I am broke, I don't have the audacity to pick money from Jonaki Holdings account.
Even when you're the boss?
Even when I'm the boss.
You're calling the shots, Jonan. Why don't you just go and tell the secretary or whoever that's handling that cash?
I'll be stealing from that business. Now, I'll be stealing from that business, yet I am meant to support it. For example, I could have a number of needs. I want to buy a hotel in Dubai. I want to buy ABCD, EFG. If I pick money from Jonaki as and when I wished, that means Jonaki will run short of its mandate, and if I know it, it will collapse. It will not grow. It will not have any money to actually, support its endeavors. Jonaki has its own aspirations. It is called for something different from myself. That whereas I might be called for something else, Jonaki is called to lend to people. Jonaki is different from me. So how do I ensure that? Is that an account for my business has to be different from my personal account. That you should actually make peace with yourself. And make sure that you're not the only signatory to that account. There should be a second or third eye to that account. Now, for example, for Jonaki, we have to know my other people who look at the financials for Jonaki have to know that this 50 million has left Jonaki account. Where is it going? Is it going to serve a particular client? Who is that client? Is that client in the system?
Whom are you accountable to?
I am accountable to 3 tiers. The first tier is my mentor. You have to have a mentor. I have a mentor in the money lending industry, in the business. So I'm accountable to a mentor. But also too, I'm accountable to my colleagues and subordinates that work in Jonaki. I have given liberty to my staff to ask me as and when, because they ought to know. If Jonaki closes today, I may have the audacity to thrive and probably start a business or get a job somewhere or whatever. But Jonaki is supporting a number of other people as well. So I never tell my staff, I am accountable to you as well. Because if Jonaki collapses, you're also going to lose the job. You're going to lose the work. So how will you thrive? Just, like how I would thrive. How would you thrive? So Jonaki exists to serve as many people as possible, not me alone. So I am accountable to my subordinates because we are in it together. We are in it for a long haul. So they ought to know how the money is spent. They ought to know how it is managed.
That's level 1. Level 2. Let's proceed because...
So level 2.
Yeah.
I gave level 1, who is a mentor.
Yeah.
Level 2, the people that I manage it with. Level 3, which is the ultimate level, which should even be level 1, is that I'm accountable to God. Accountable to God. Why? Because anyone else, Drago, anyone else, can own Jonaki Holdings Limited. But I'm so privileged that the Lord entrusted me with this Jonaki.
Okay. It's
in my hands because I am managing it well. In the event that I don't manage it well, God will raise up someone else who will do what it is that he wants done. Because I'm called to lend to nations and borrow from man. So I meant to lend, isn't it? So on that very fact, even Jonaki tithes, and I'm proud to say it. We pay tithe. We pay tithe because we are entrusted with this business for such a time to steward it well. I'm just stewarding it. So at a certain point, someone else will come. I mean, I'll grow old. I'll reach 100, 120. I'm probably, leave this earth. So will Jonaki stop with me? No. So I am accountable to higher power beyond me. So that's the ultimate. Actually, of all things, if I can fault on the management, if I can fault on the board, because you have a board of directors, if I can fault on my mentor, of all things, I cannot fault on God.
Why Zambia? Jonan, why Zambia? Not Kenya, not Tanzania?
Very good question.
Yeah.
First is that we are called to lend to many nations. Now, you note that many nations is not one country. Many nations is as many as possible. As many nations as possible. First thing, isn't it? But also, two, why Zambia? So I have shows that I run as the CEO of Jonaki Holdings Limited. And in those shows, there are privileges that I've given to money lenders because I've found out that the turnover, the rate at which money lenders are leaving the money lending industry is high. People are losing their money. People are closing business. In closing business, they are not only losing as CEOs, as owners of businesses, but also the people that they employ. So people's lives are hanging in balance just because people are closing shop. So I felt that discontent. I said, you know what, how can I help fellow lenders so they can do it well? I started doing shows. So when I started doing shows, I got an overwhelming demand and attendance at participants in my masterminds because I run masterminds. So a number of people who are attending my masterminds and also watching my videos on YouTube at Jonan Kandwanaho were very many. But among the countries that actually led, because I usually review those statistics, were people coming from Zambia. So I picked interest. I said, how come Zambians are picking a lot of interest in my shows? And that's when I reached out and you know what? Some of the guys that I was mentoring in my mastermind, I asked them, posed a few questions and realized that, Zambia does not have as many lenders. So I said, look, in Uganda, on almost every mall, you have over 20 lenders. So why am I confining myself in this Uganda alone?
Little space, yeah.
A little space. And yet I am called to lend to nations. I said, look, I said, having that conversation. So I picked out on one of the guys that, attended my mastermind. I said, look, tell me about Zambia. So I picked interest. We started the market. I flew there. We did a market study and market search. And finally, I appointed a country director and, we registered in Zambia, and here we are. Well,
Jonan, it has been a pleasure sitting down with you. I even feel like we haven't scratched
not even surface. A notch.
Not even. Small. You are so loaded with so much information. This is the true definition of iron sharpening iron. I understand Jonaki has a website. Let's remind people how to contact that website.
www.jonakiholdings.com.
Okay, any other social media handles?
At Jonan Kandwanaho, my social media handles, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, but at Jonaki Holdings Limited on all the other social media handles as well. Twitter, we are in all spaces, all social media spaces, we are all there.
Go and subscribe on his channel. Like he said, you will learn everything that you need to know about this whole business, and even more, and even more. Jonan, it has been a pleasure. Well, have a good evening, and thank you very much. I think we should plan for a third time, right?
I look forward.
A third time is a charm.
I'm available. Anytime.
Asante sana.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
Pleasure.